What placebo effect do people not realize? Story 1. First of all, you aren't cleansing anything. Additionally, of course you're going to feel better after not eating for a weekend. Drinking sugar water doesn't do your body any favors either, but it's been 3 days since your body has gotten much needed calories. Eating anything is going to make you feel amazing after that nonsense. Any sort of cleanse. You do not need to detoxify your body. Your kidneys and liver do a great job of that. If you really had so many toxins in your body, you would be deathly ill and in need of hospitalization. You do not have 2 to 10 pounds of toxic sludge chilling in your intestines making you sick. You probably do have a few pounds of food at various stages of digestion, but this is normal and healthy. Digestion is a process that takes time, so if your undigested food moves right along and didn't spend any time sitting in your digestive tract, your body wouldn't have had the chance to extract the energy and nutrients locked in that food. Constantly dumping your brains out like a cleanse makes you do is not healthy. If you're having regular bowel movements, your digestive system is working fine. If you really do have pounds and pounds of toxic sludge stuck in your intestines, then you should see a doctor ASAP because you likely have a bowel obstruction. Man, I once had pounds of toxic sludge in me, didn't poop for a week, finally got frustrated and bought a bottle of magnesium citrate, chugged the whole thing down, and started the waiting game. It gave me some serious bubble gum. It really made my insides go from stagnant to a gentle simmer to a full-on boil in maybe half an hour, and it just didn't stop for hours. I knew relief was only a matter of time away. But you see, I'm not very smart. The bottle said allow 6 to 12 hours. I took it at 7 a.m. on a Sunday, figuring I could inconsequentially spend my day on the toilet. 1 p.m. rolled around, and though I could feel something cooking, I didn't feel anything priming. 7 p.m. rolled around. Still lots of bubbling, but no progress. Midnight rolled around, and I finally just said, screw it. I'll probably end up crapping my entire bed in my sleep, but I have to work in the morning. Alarm goes off at 6 a.m. I felt, and more horrifyingly, looked pregnant. Still no poop. That's when I knew something was wrong. But I had a busy day of work ahead of me, and I figured I'll get it checked at lunch. Made it to work at 7. Opened up my laptop, closed my laptop. It arrived, and it was not willing to wait. I duck-waddled to the bathroom, saw someone was in one of the stalls, apologized to him, and let loose the first of what would be many installments of pneumatically propelled toxic sludge. Got cleaned up, walked past my boss's desk, informed him I'd be working from home, and left without grabbing my laptop. This OP says I don't have pounds of toxic sludge in me, but he hasn't watched me eat. I'm actually pretty sure I have more sludge than bones and water combined. It's gotten to the point where I don't even bother eating actual protein anymore because my body has no idea what to do with it. That said, none of what OP's saying here actually surprises me. This sounds a lot like what people say about multivitamins, how they do more than your body really needs, to the point that your body literally won't make use of them for the most part. However, it did not occur to me that the side effects of cleanses might actually be bad for you. They can be pretty effective if you need to lose 5 pounds quickly and don't care how you do it, but if that's your only priority, you may as well get a tapeworm. At least then you can eat whatever you want. Story 2. There's good evidence most over-the-counter cough medicine is no better than a placebo. Edit. Since this statement is doing numbers, I thought it would be better to clarify and explain in more detail. To begin with, here are more studies going into more depth about the effectiveness of cough medication in treating acute cough. A review of 6 trials involving 438 children found over-the-counter cough medicines do not appear more effective than placebos in relieving symptoms of acute cough. In probably the largest review, looking at 29 different scientific trials involving 4,835 people, the investigators could not find any evidence that over-the-counter cough medication was effective at reducing acute cough. A review of the pediatric literature also raises the fact that none of the major trials found over-the-counter cough medications had any discernible effect other than as a placebo. It even questions whether physicians should recommend them to children. That being said, however, it doesn't mean necessarily that people shouldn't take them. I take them. The placebo effect is not a harmful effect, and there's no reason to avoid it. If it brings relief, it brings relief. People should just be aware that the evidence for the active ingredients, the ones that are marketed by the companies that make them, doing anything is just not there. There's evidence that a placebo works even if you know it's a placebo. Well, yeah, All the stuff that actually works isn't allowed to be over the counter because people do dumb stuff with medicine. I get what this commenter is saying, but that doesn't actually seem like a good reason to start nerfing over-the-counter medications. By that logic, we should need a prescription for glue, laundry detergent, and embalming fluid. Actually, I guess in a way, you kind of do need a prescription for embalming fluid, or at least proof of a pre-existing condition, but you get what I mean. Story 3. Products claiming to detoxify your body. No, your organs flush most things out of the system itself. Here, drink these juices that make your crud watery for a week. You'll be totally detoxed after. Okay, to be fair, I had to do a colonoscopy prep a few months back, and while by the end I was massively dehydrated and fatigued, for a few hours I was like, dang, I've never felt this light and clean and not bloated. I guess those Insta models are onto something here. Edit. I should have known I was going to get a ton of well-intended suggestions, but my stomach issues are seemingly due to endometriosis having grown on my colon at one point, it's been removed, and apparently the birth control I was on. I'm as regular as I could hope for since stopping it. Thanks. Edit. Yes, please feel free to PM me if you have questions about endometriosis or IBS or anything. I'm obviously very open about this stuff. The best way to not be embarrassed by having pooping issues is to just be open about your pooping issues. Group hug. Last edit. I'm not in any way seriously condoning detoxes. Please don't drink 3 pints of laxative if you're not having a colonoscopy. Detox isn't real, but horrible diarrhea is. If you have issues with bloating and constipation, please discuss it with your doctor. Abusing certain types of laxatives can cause a dependence, and you can make yourself really sick with dehydration. Story 4. I'm not sure that this is entirely a placebo effect, but I feel like the entire anti-MSG propaganda is based on a lot of placebo effects. As an example, my father-in-law is absolutely convinced that he can tell when a restaurant uses MSG, and that we must avoid them at all costs, because he gets very ill when he eats MSG. He supposedly gets severe headaches and doesn't feel well for an entire day anytime he eats at a restaurant that uses MSG. Meanwhile, he eats instant ramen several times a week, which is loaded with MSG, and yet he feels absolutely fine. I've yet to point this out to him because he's not the kind of person to learn something, then realize the mistake. So it's not like he'll be like, oh, I guess I've been eating MSG this whole time and I've been fine. I guess MSG isn't entirely bad. But rather all of a sudden realize that the next time he eats instant ramen, he'll feel sick because he's now aware it contains MSG. So yeah, I'm going to say MSG and the resulting negative effects are simply the result of eating high levels of sodium. I'm not a nutritionist and don't have any scientific data to prove that MSG has negative placebo effects, but I do feel anecdotally I've seen plenty of people succumb to this. Edit. Lots of people have kindly pointed out that this is an example of a nocebo effect, not a placebo effect. I can usually tell when there's MSG in food because that food will, more often than not, taste delicious. It's also in foods like tomatoes and Parmesan. People with MSG issues magically don't seem to have problems with tomatoes, only Chinese food. I always thought this was a weird anti-Asian thing, but if he's fine with ramen, then I don't know what to think. I will point out that the sodium explanation doesn't quite seem to cut it. If this guy's MSG issues were really based on sodium, there's no way he'd be fine with instant noodles, unless he's eating them without the flavor packet, in which case he should be on some sort of watch list because that's not normal. Even inmates who eat their noodles dry will still sprinkle the packets on there. In any case, for those who weren't aware, the nocebo effect this OP mentions is basically the placebo effect's evil twin. It's based on the exact same principle, the only difference being that it leads to a negative outcome instead of a positive one. And posts describing that exact effect with MSG seem to be increasingly common lately for some reason. Don't ask why. Story 5. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, I woke up in the middle of the night to a giant daddy long legs on the wall right above my head. I ran out of the room absolutely terrified and told my mom I would never sleep in there again because the spiders were going to crawl all over me as soon as I fell asleep. I guess after 2 nights of sleeping on couch cushions beside my parents' bed, they had had enough and decided to figure something out. They went out and bought special spider spray that would keep all of the spiders away. There was a tiny little hole in the drywall at the top corner of the ceiling, and I told them that's where they were getting in, and they had to spray there. So my mom sprayed the spider spray in the hole and plugged it with tissue paper, and then sprayed all over my room. I remember it smelled really sweet, and my mom said it was because spiders hate sweets. Then, after I was satisfied with the level of spider prevention, my mom put the can under the sink in my bathroom, and it was long forgotten about. Fast forward 12 years later, I've moved out and my parents are redoing the bathroom. They asked me to come over and grab any stuff I still wanted. I'm rummaging through and I pull out an air freshener can with little holographic Halloween spider stickers all over it. My mom starts laughing and tells me that that was my special spider spray. Your mom is awesome. Not just because she went through that much trouble to make her kid feel safe, but because she basically had the exact same idea for spider spray that Bugs Bunny had for Michael Jordan's secret stuff in the first Space Jam movie. I mean, not exactly the same since that was just water, but it's still one of the few times a bait and switch could be said to have actually helped the person. She deserves points for that alone. Story 6. When my daughter was very young, I had to leave for work for a couple of years, only coming back once a month. My daughter started to have nightmares, so I bought a teddy bear that I gave her and told her he would keep the nightmares away. Years later, she asked me why it worked. Because you believed me. Yep, my mom told me the pokey ceiling in my bedroom, it was textured, would keep monsters away because they would bonk their heads on it and hurt themselves. I was like, duh, of course they would, and never worried about monsters again. I shared a room with my younger brother when I would stay at my dad's on the weekends. He lived in the woods, and I was 100% sure werewolves were real. We got a bunk bed, and I got to the top. Dad said to not worry about the werewolves anymore because if they came in, they would eat my brother and be too full to eat me. I slept so well after that. Story 7. All heal us, balm us. All heal us, balm us. I've spent much of my time working with kids at overnight camps. I've occupied many roles, but because I keep my credentials up to date, I'm always one of the grown-ups who's on first aid duty. While the first rule of first aid is to take it seriously, when a kid is limping because their group is due to hike up a mountain tomorrow, all heal us, balm us works a charm. Other situations it works in, a kid is crying because they got hit by a ball during games, or are homesick so have a sore tummy. It is aqueous cream with a small amount of eucalyptus essential oil, which has a warming effect and makes it smell medicinal, and it works beautifully. 90% of the time, the kid is back up and running around with friends in no time at all. The other 10% probably need a hug. All heal us, balm us sounds like some sort of cultic chant done during blood sacrifices, but it works. Story 8. I'm not a big audio geek, but I've been sitting in and assisting with running sound at my local church. I'm learning a lot. One of the guys who knows a ton about soundboards was telling me that the band members are notorious for complaining about imaginary things. When this happens, he grabs an inactivated knob on the soundboard and stares at the guy in the eyes as he moves the knob. 95% of the time, when he asks if it's better, they will say yes and won't complain about it again. As a musician, when I don't like the way something sounds and ask the sound man to fix it, I usually just stare at him and wonder why it's not sounding any different while he's moving knobs. Then I'll just be like, yeah, you fixed it, because I don't want to look like an amateur who can't hear the difference. It's the equivalent of saying, yeah, haha, when you can't hear someone and you already asked, what was that? 3 times. My favorite part of this story is just the implication that both the sound guy and the bandmates were actually psyching each other out. That's not really a placebo effect, but I've heard a few different names for it. I think the relevant psychological phenomenon here might be the Applebee's syndrome. Basically, you and 3 friends are going out to lunch, but you can't figure out where to go. One guy suggests Applebee's. The next guy doesn't want to go there, but he's tired of arguing, so he agrees. The third guy really doesn't want to, but at this point, saying no would make him look disagreeable. So he agrees as well. You hate Applebee's, but it's 3-1, so you also agree. The twist is that the first guy hates Applebee's too. He only suggested it because the 4 of you went there last time and seemed to have fun. It's a little more relevant to the musician side of this story than the sound guys, but it's a fun little dive into how often we'll agree to things we don't like just for the sake of ending a conversation more quickly. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of this video and have a wonderful day. Story 9. The bias placebo. It's a very simple concept where someone allows a certain bias, as in an idea, to create a placebo effect. For example, you may have a bias that fish tastes nasty even if you've never tried it. So when you finally do, the placebo effect kicks in and ruins it. This is very common and comes in many forms. It's always self-inflicted and is easily fixed. It's so common that people can have this happen nearly day to day depending upon the bias and not even know it. Out of curiosity, how is it easily fixed, especially if it's so cognitively engraved? Because I feel like it'd be cool to try food even if I think I strongly dislike it. Best way to get past this is to be mindful of the food you're eating. Focus on the texture, the flavor, the colors, everything. Take your time eating it and think about what you're experiencing as you do. Mindfulness is a very powerful tool. Story 10. I used to play a game called Evolve, and my daughter asked about it, and I told her I'm a monster hunter. She said, "Why are there still monsters in my room then?" I got this super serious look, told her to stay right there and don't move, and ran upstairs like life depended on it. Spent about 10 minutes lifting weights and doing a couple of push-ups, came back down and said as seriously as I could, "There's no monsters in your room now." And she hugged me really big. Good dad. Story 11. Herbalife and similar products. The people I know who talk about how great it is don't understand the real reason they're losing weight and feeling better is because they completely change their diets and eating habits. If you replace an unhealthy meal with a shake, what you're really doing is cutting out calories. This is what's making you lose weight, not any magic stuff in those shakes. My mom likes to talk about a weight loss cream she saw in the 70s where you would put it on the area you want to lose fat from, belly, thighs, wherever. Then, to activate the cream, you go for a 5-mile run. It's hilarious that some people would go for a run to activate a cream, but say no to going on a run if directly told that running is a good choice. That's honestly kind of brilliant. I feel like the people who made the cream weren't even hucksters, but simply wanted people to exercise more and came up with an ingenious way to make it happen. Not to say that actual scammers don't do this sort of thing all the time, like those pickup artists who charge guys for classes to learn all these skills to make women like them. No matter what kind of methods they advise, the one thing they all have in common is telling you to ask out as many women as possible. This can work without following the rest of their toxic regimen. Obviously, getting rejected numbs you to the pain of it, and putting yourself out there more gives you a generally better chance at finding someone who will accept you. That's not artistry, it's just basic statistics. In any case, I need to figure out where I can buy some of that cream. I haven't had a good excuse to go running in years. Story 12. My friend is a university student in pharmacology and works in a major pharmacy here, mostly as a driver. He got a woman calling the store once, asking if they had something called Peggy Drops, which she claimed was the best remedy for morning sickness for pregnant women. He claimed that he had never heard of such a thing, but found out that the store did have some in stock. The woman actually started to laugh at him, and even then commented, "Sorry, me and my daughter were just laughing at you. You don't know what Peggy Drops is?" So he took a look at the label. Drug-free, doctor-recommended, natural flavors. Best part is, in the nutritional information, it was more than 90% just sugar. Nothing in it. It was just candy with a different label and claiming to be a natural remedy. Story 13. Sugar hyperactivity. From what I've read, it does nothing to make someone hyper, but parents tell their kids it will make them hyper, so when the kids do eat sugar, they act hyperactive. A majority of studies show no link between sugar intake and hyperactivity. I'd heard that kids get out of control at birthday parties because of the setting, not because of cake and ice cream. Although caffeine does cause hyperactivity, so if a kid is drinking soda at a party, that will also be a contributing factor, especially if the kid rarely has access to caffeine. Story 14. My little sister thinks she's high off her rocker all the time because she vapes CBD oil. CBD provides no psychological high. However, it does indeed mellow you out and can alleviate body pain. I have stage 5, end stage, chronic kidney disease, and Crohn's disease, and I take CBD oil almost every day for my chronic pain caused by both my afflictions. Before CBD oil, I just basically lived in pain every day. Stuff works wonders. I'm a medical marijuana card holder though, so I know the CBD oil I get is legitimate. As for the stuff you get to vape with, who knows? She seriously injured her leg last year and has had chronic pain since. Maybe the high she gets is simple pain relief. If it keeps her happy, I'm keeping my mouth shut. It might be pain relief, but it's hard to say. This doesn't sound all that different from the studies they've done on drinking. When a person thinks they're drinking, even if they've been secretly given non-alcoholic beverages all night, they'll start to act like they're completely trashed. They'll get louder, more boisterous, perhaps a bit more impulsive. They might start slurring their words, but depending on the severity of her pain, treatment will only alleviate so much. It's possible that, rather than the pain relief causing a placebo effect, the placebo effect is actually increasing her level of pain relief. I don't know for sure, but if there's even a chance, this OP is right not to correct her about it. Story 15. Worked at a camp. The infirmary would give campers homesick medicine. Pretty much Gatorade and sugar. That stuff worked wonders. Some parents blew up and thought we were lying and brainwashing kids, so they got rid of it. I can see exactly how this goes down. Parents. I can't believe you would give my child medicine without my permission. Camp. It's sugar water. Parents, feeling stupid, but refusing to swallow their outrage. How dare you deceive my child? Same parents. Kids these days are helpless and entitled. I don't really see the problem. Mary Poppins not only medicated the Banks children without their parents' permission, but she absolutely laced that stuff with sugar. And she's one of the most beloved family film protagonists of all time. I'm not positive that pointing this out would have actually helped, but if I were in this OP's shoes, I wouldn't hesitate. I think the best thing you can hope for in some jobs is a really entertaining last day. Story 16. To a certain extent, alcohol. Many of the behaviors associated with drinking, aside from direct physical effects, come about through learned behavior, environment, and cultural conditioning. There have been hundreds of studies where college students are unknowingly given non-alcoholic beer in a bar-like setting, yet after a few they behave like they're buzzed. However, that doesn't happen when given non-alcoholic beer in a classroom setting. I noticed this when I didn't drink. I went a solid 2 months sober and would be my friend's designated driver. I'd still hang and drink water, or if the bartender was nice, they'd give me a soda, and just hang. But I'd still feel that drunk feeling in a way. Read up on this, oddly happy. It's not clear from this post, but the OP seems to be mentioning at the beginning that this happens with real alcohol. I'll believe that. If you have a couple of drinks alone, you might not feel all that buzzed. Your internal monologue doesn't change much, you just might feel a bit lightheaded. But if you have those same drinks at a bar with friends, the sense of camaraderie and shared enjoyment kicks in and makes you feel twice as buzzed. That's why drinking alone is so bad for you. Not because it's alcoholic and depressing, but because it's just a total waste of money. Story 17. Radio waves, normal frequency causing illnesses. There was a radio tower put somewhere near people's houses when they started complaining about headaches, fevers, and other symptoms. The reaction from the company running the tower? Just wait until we turn the thing on. Edit. Yes, it's a nocebo, I know by now. Upvote the comments that say so instead of commenting it yourself, please. Preemptive thanks. Same with wind farm syndrome, or whatever it's called. Story 18. The kiss you give a kid after they get hurt. I mean, most people know it does nothing, but few realize it actually works due to the placebo effects. Edit. As people have pointed out, there's more at play with this than just the placebo effect. Thanks to Reddit for the free education. Actually, it's the power of love. I mean, that power saved Harry Potter. Story 19. Balance bracelets. The power of magnets. Or BS, we can't be sure. The theory behind them is that the magnets do something to the iron in your blood and give you benefits. While extremely powerful magnets can affect your blood, the ones in the scam bracelets are magnitudes too weak to ever have any effect at all. They're just stylish, stupid jewelry for old people. P.S. If you liked my use of effect versus effect, and I did it correctly, then it was pure luck, because I don't know how to use those effectively. When someone's getting praised for using a couple of words correctly, the state of education is in dire straits. In any case, you probably shouldn't believe any fashion accessory that offers medical benefits. Several years ago, there was a guy selling bracelets that he claimed to make you immortal. I'd love to see the quality assurance testing on those things. I actually don't think you could conduct a study on those. Not legally, anyway. Mostly because I think a proper study would have to include a control group that doesn't have access to bracelets at all. People still get away with these kinds of scams all the time. They've simply learned that, in the modern era, you have to make your fake medical accessory vibrate if you really want to convince people. Story 20. Clicking random buttons during the Pokeball catching animation. In defense of us who started playing with blue and red, the internet wasn't so easy to navigate back then, and it was listed as a cheat code on most websites that some combination of buttons forced a capture each time. Actually, I think what lended credence to it was that none of the sites said it forced a capture, but that it just increased the chance to capture. Story 21. Remember that annoying commercial for that headache stick you rolled on your head? They would say, "Head on, apply directly to the forehead," 3 times in a row. Yeah, I guess this stuff is just homeopathic, aka a placebo. Head on, which you apply directly to your forehead, is literally just wax. No active ingredients. If you pay attention to the commercials, they never actually say it does anything, because they legally couldn't. PUBG patches. Story 22. Your blanket covering your legs / yourself from a serial killer at night. I remember when we watched The Grudge, Japanese version, and the bit where the girl's being followed by the spirit, and she finally gets into bed, but when she lifts up the sheets and looks down, it's in bed with her. My mom's like, "That's cheating, you're safe when you get into bed." That movie broke down all my safety mechanisms against monsters, to give anyone nightmares, but getting into bed is probably the worst way to avoid monsters. Why would you want to take refuge on the very piece of furniture they live under? But I don't think this is really a placebo, such as a misfire of the parasympathetic nervous system. Instead of choosing fight or flight, you just freeze. If you get out of bed, you might run headlong into whatever you're afraid of. If you stay still, maybe it'll just forget you're there, like a T-Rex. If there actually was a monster in your room, all you're doing is making it easier for the monster to find you. And depending on your reflexes, it might be easier for it to catch you than if you'd been sitting or standing up. But there's always that fear that the moment you put your foot on the ground, something will reach out and grab it. Basically, if you think you're in danger, just give up and go to sleep. At least you won't be awake to witness the end. Story 23. When Harry Potter pretends to put liquid luck in Ron's cup before the Quidditch match, and Ron freaking kills it like a superstar, and then gets laid like 41 times a day. You read weird fanfic. Come on, man, that's nowhere near the threshold for weird when talking Harry Potter fanfiction. Story 24. Anyone else puzzled by the way we downplay placebo effect? It's just a placebo effect. So in medicine, that means some people actually just believe themselves into feeling better, comparatively to the test group who actually got medicine. Feels like unfinished research. I get why we downplay it. Placebo effect doesn't work on everyone. Some people need true care. By giving someone a placebo, we're effectively taking a gamble. The irony is that if the placebo could have worked for that person, we're potentially robbing them of that by shattering the illusion. Sometimes it'll still work, but certainly not all the time. So we're basically taking a gamble either way. But if we know a placebo is working for someone, it might be best to let sleeping dogs lie. Story 25. A broken marriage, but flex tape is still more effective. That's a lot of damage. Unexpected financial ruin criticals your marriage for 43,456 points of damage. Story 26. I'm scared to read this thread and have all modern medicine ineffective to my body. The funny thing about placebos is that they sometimes work even when you know it's BS. Story 27. People who swear they feel better and more focused after eating like 1 head of broccoli. Yeah, vegetables are good for you, but let's not get carried away. Story 28. Pacifiers. My 2-month-old thinks he has my boobaloo-balooby in his mouth, but I'm actually sitting 10 feet away checking email. Story 29. Huffing essential oils for ailments. Great for making your house smell nice, though. I think it might depend on the ailment. I'll fully believe that oils can help with some minor things. For instance, some oils are just supposed to clear your mind a bit and help you focus. That doesn't sound all too different from smelling salts. Unless those are placebo too, in which case movies have been lying to me for basically my entire life. What do you think? Do oils have any place in healthcare whatsoever, or should we just do away with them altogether? Share your opinion in the comments below. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.